we go. The long-awaited episode. Welcome, Carlos.
Hey, welcome in.
Part 3 of a podcast series that, I don't know, it felt like it was a long time coming for you.
I've been talking about this for years. Probably about, especially on the Discord, about 2, maybe 3 years that I wanted to go to commercial.
Mm-hmm.
So to actually be here.
We're here now. So a little information for anyone who doesn't know. Carlos we're in his Meadery that he started up. And we did an episode 1, like maybe a year. I don't know how long ago that was.
It got to be at least over a year ago.
We had a whole episode that was you essentially before the building had even gotten started.
Yeah.
It was all just theory crafting. What are we going to do? What do you want to do with the Meadery? So we did that whole episode, which was a lot of fun. Then we made an episode where you had started the building.
Oh, yeah.
And you were in the midst of it and going through all licensure and all the struggles that was, which was kind of wild. And then, of course, we wanted to see it through. And so here we are now. If you are watching on the YouTube video, you can see part of his back area. We have here, he's got an amazing bar front and things. It's located in Wiley, Texas. It's Texas Longhouse Mead. If you're around Wiley, Texas, or any surrounding area, stop by. Or from anywhere in the U.S., I guess, if you're coming through. But a wonderful bar front, really cool back area, and I'm getting to try some of his stuff today. But Carlos, I am super excited to be able to sit here and do this with you and be able to actually try the mead. That's people coming in. I can't even be mad about that. That ding is people coming in to drink more mead. Yep. So how's it been now that you've opened for what, 3-4 months?
8 months.
Oh my God, no way.
Dude, it is flown.
That's crazy.
People still ask me and I'll be like, oh yeah, we've been open 5-6 months. And then we're like, no, we're in June.
Yeah.
Which is already 6 months plus 2 months in last year. So no, we're 8 months.
That's crazy. Yeah, my brain was stuck on, I guess time flies in a different way.
Yeah.
So, first 8 months of opening, what are some things you've learned so far in this time?
I've learned that it takes a lot more work than you think. A lot.
Yeah.
And there's some meaderies like take Fox and Raven for instance, they're still working a full-time job and running their meadery.
Yeah.
On the weekends, so they're working 7 days
Double
a
time,
week,
yeah.
all the time. I'm working. There's some weeks where I'll have a day or 2 off, but other than that, I'm here 9 days a week, 28 hours a day. Well, not really, but
Yeah, I got you.
It's a lot of work. There's some days I come in 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, and I don't leave till 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, depending on what we need done.
So what do you feel like is the bulk of your time? Owning a meadery now, obviously, it's assorted in a lot of ways, but I think a lot of people think that they're just going to be maybe just pouring the mead for people, or what's the bulk of the time for you?
Cleaning and canning, or packaging. We'll go with packaging because one, our cans move fast, and now we're starting to get into bottle shops and small distribution places.
Oh, cool.
And so trying to keep up with cans. For the longest time, we had just a single little manual counter pressure filler, and that took probably about 3 hours to do 50 to 100 cans. And now that we upgraded our system, and we hired employees now, and so now if there 2 of us are running it, we can crank out about 300 cans an hour.
That's awesome.
So it's nice, but at that startup point, because one, trying to make sure we use our money wisely.
Right.
That is probably the biggest. Not shock, but as a home brewer, you're like, oh, I'm just going to buy some honey. Unless your wife's telling you no, you're just like, oh, buy some honey, buy some carboys, buy this, buy that. And going commercial, we're like, all right, how do we make the best use of our money for long term? And so my initial can setup was maybe $300-$400.
Uh-huh.
And then going to this new system, which was still semi-manual. We flip switches and it does all the filling and counter pressure for us. But from there, you still have to stand there, flip switches, manually seam all the cans, cork bottles, and so on and so forth. So that takes a little bit of time. But, we've got all stainless steel equipment for the most part, so it's easier to clean. But it's still very time-consuming and it's expensive. And so we started out with the manual one, 50 cans in 4 hours. It worked for us, especially starting out, people trying to figure out, and then all right, we want it to go now. Well, now we're having to crank out a lot more. And
Because you're not doing it like a lot of breweries and stuff will do a growler to go or like a can to go or something like that. You're not doing it in the moment. You're having to backlog your stuff essentially. That's what you're saying.
So like all of our cans, we fill. There's even been days we come in and we're like, all right, we'll have a shop full of cans, and of course we have our inventory back here as well. But then like this weekend we have an event going on. Cans disappeared.
Yep.
And then live music outside, so people want to go sit outside.
Yeah.
And so they'll take cans to go. We had a bunch of growlers, and in a matter as soon as we told people, hey, we got growlers, like fill it up, let's go, and they're like, all the growlers disappeared. So now we're having to get more growlers.
Yeah.
And as you can see, our space is limited, so trying to balance everything, and so using your money in the best way possible is probably like the biggest learning curve, especially going homebrew to commercial, because now you don't just throw money at it and be like, oh yeah, let's go. No, now you have to actually plan everything out.
And so within 8 months, like I'm sure you've had your customer base establish, whether you like it or not, what is going to be the flagships. So have you been surprised with what has become the most coveted, sought after stuff, or have you expected it?
100%. And so like I knew Sessions, like talking to other meaderies, I knew Sessions always sell the best. It's especially living in Texas or in the southeast central area, it's hot.
Yeah.
Sessions sell like crazy. Our higher ABV meads do sell, and the one that really surprised me was one of our meads that was 100% a mistake mead. The easiest way to explain it.
Yeah. Which one was that? Now you have to elaborate.
So we were making a 13% sizer, and it just was not coming out. I was not happy with it. I was getting irritated with it.
Yeah.
And I told my wife, and this was like with 2-3 months that we were open, the first few months. Oh, thank you. And so it was like, all right, it just was not coming out.
Right.
Like I was getting irritated. I was pissed. And I literally stood right there, right over the drain, had my hand on the valve, and I told my wife, I'm dumping this. I don't like it. I don't want it.
Yeah.
And so she's like, well, don't dump it. Let's see what we can do with it. So she was like, all right.
Wise words. There you Thank you.
So that one's it.
The mistake mead.
That's the mistake.
Is that what it's called? Or do you
spoon? Like you need a giant mixing spoon? Sorry.
No, you're good. This is the business right here. We're seeing it in action.
The tank part. There's 2 spoons on there.
He was dipping some earlier. He was getting some tasters, Carlos drinks straight from the vat,
Oh, wouldn't be the first time.
Where?
On the end. Come towards me. Right there.
Oh.
Big giant silver spoons.
So you weren't liking this mead?
No, yeah, I was not liking the mead. I was like, man, I'm getting ready to dump it. I was like, all right, what? And so she's like, don't dump it. What goes good with apple? And this was like right after Thanksgiving or right before the holidays, whatever. And I was all like, I don't know. Like, seriously, I was irritated. I had my hand on the valve ready to dump it. I was like, I don't know. Cranberries. So she's like, all right, I'll be back. Left, went and got cranberries, brought them back. We threw them in, let them sit for 2 weeks.
Yep.
Number 1 seller.
I mean, it is screaming. You put cinnamon with this or something. This is screaming Christmas to me too. Like it has that perfect Christmassy vibe. But it's super crushable. Was it 13? That what you said?
13%.
It doesn't taste like it. I mean,
we have people that knock it out, and we're like, hey man, you got to slow down. That's 13%. They'll look at you and be like, it's what?
Yeah, you're like, you've had 4.
Yeah. Here's some water.
Yeah, exactly. That's super good. Yeah. Well, I love that too because I think a lot of people, especially, I mean, I do this all the time. I have stuff that I dump quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
And I probably should be more patient and say like, what can I do to redeem this? However, most of the time I'm like, whatever, forget about it. And so you can't do that at the commercial scale as much.
No, not so much, especially because like we just had to dump 100 gallons of that exact mead last week because our
doing the cranberry version.
Yeah, it was apple. It was Asgard's Orchard, so it was cranberry apple. It finished, tasted amazing. I was like, heck yeah, run it through the filter, clear it out, keg it, get it bottled because we were out of it.
Right.
We've been out for 3 weeks and people are up in arms like, when's it coming back? When's it coming back? When's it like,
yeah.
Our regulars come in are like, you have it back yet? They're like, no, it's coming back soon. And then ran it through the filter, and that's when we found out our filter went bad.
So when you say the filter went bad, you just mean that it got caught some sort of bacteria or something, and so that it just what happened?
We have a lenticular filter.
Yeah.
This big one right there.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to flush them out And we back flush everything. Then we add metabolic sulfite and citric acid to help preserve it. Soak it in water, clean everything out, and then we were flushing it out and purging it with CO2 and everything like that. And we were back flushing it. At least I was back flushing it like every 2 to 3 weeks. And then just the amount of production we had, I think it just got skipped one session or whatever. And so all the yeast and everything that collected in the deep inside of the filters didn't get flushed out. And then finally got a hold of the manufacturer, like, oh, well, our recommendation is to do it every week, not every 2 or 3 weeks. And because the yeast that gets stuck in there, if you can't get the yeast that's deep inside of there out, it goes to what is it? Autolysis. Yeah. And so it starts breaking down, and of course that's decomposing yeast. And it doesn't smell good. So
that sucks.
Yeah. So that whole filter setup, to the filters and housing, that's probably beside our canner, is probably the most expensive piece in here.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Because each one of those filters is about $500 a piece, and there's 4 of them.
Yeah.
And so that's just $2,000 in filters, and the housing is another $4,000. So that adds up quick. So when your filters go bad, it's
Well, like I said earlier, kind of off. We were drinking some stuff, and I said you're learning all the mistakes early on. Well, what I like about you, Carlos, is that you're willing to share those things too, and like. I've seen you talk to people on Facebook. I've seen you talk to people on Discord, like everywhere. And when you get asked a question, you don't shy away from it. And that's what I like about your openness, willingness to help people grow, because that's something that like I've never thought about that. I would never think about that until I experience it. Just like I'm sure you were there, and then you were like, well, crap, Yeah,
and then like I wish I learned on a smaller scale per se. Like I wish I only had to dump like 20 gallons, because like some of our batches, you know, our smallest batch we do is like 15 gallons or 10 to 15 gallons roughly. So we're still using some of our homebrew equipment, like our conical fermenters and everything back there. So I wish we had learned that lesson on that scale and not 100-gallon scale. But
that's not how it pans out, though. I mean, half the time. And that's unfortunately not the last time you'll make some big mistake like that, which is the hard part. I think that's like from everyone I've talked to that owns a meadery, they always talk about, the moment that they had to dump a 1,000-gallon batch or something. And you're like, it's a horror moment for them in the moment. And it always will be.
Oh, yeah.
But you talk to them and they're like, that's how I learned, And I think that's just part of the business. That's the hard part.
And I got on one of the Facebook groups for breweries, and because there's really no how to start a meadery Facebook group, but there's brewery and planning Facebook groups. So like if you're looking to I want to get into going commercial, there are Facebook groups out there that you can talk to people, but you have to know how to ask the question to be able to get the answer you're looking for. Not necessarily the answer you're looking for, but like I didn't know we were supposed to flush the filters. Like I was like, hey, I got a lenticular filter. How do we maintain it? And everyone was like, just back flush it.
Yeah.
But no one said, hey, you have to do that.
How often
once
to do
a
it.
week. They just say, hey, just back flush it.
Right.
Either steam it or hot water and then citric acid, metabolic sulfites, to preserve it, blah, blah, blah. And all right, cool. But no one says, hey, once a week or you're going to have this problem.
Yeah.
And so, I had another meadery reach out to me because they want to get into using lenticular filters. And so I told them, hey, look, this is what you got to do. It's not cheap. You got to maintain it, and walk them through the process. And they're like, oh, hey, thank you. So, the meat community is so small that we have to help each other if we want to succeed, basically, because we're still the smallest industry. So we have to rely on each other, whereas the craft breweries are a little bit more private in what they're doing, because they, not that everything's proprietary, but breweries are everywhere.
Yeah,
so, it's a little more competitive for breweries. Like, meaderies here in Dallas. There's 5 meaderies here in the Dallas area. But our flavor profiles and our just overall, in general, mead preferences are vastly different.
Right.
And so, going to a brewery, hey, let me get a lager. Well, a lager, not that a lager is a lager, but,
they're pretty, I mean, it's like 80% the same. I mean, I'm sure somebody right now is already
tapping away. Actually,
you don't know anything about beer. But I agree, though. I think that breweries do have to keep things a little bit closer, because it's like their ingredients, I feel like, are closer to one another than, even though there are thousands of kinds of malts and things. Like, our ingredients, unless you're going from the same manufacturers, even so, you still could end up with such a vastly different product.
Yeah.
And again, I know all the beer brewers are typing, well, you're not thinking about the mash temp and all the, all the things that they're adding in the water. And you're right. There are 1,000 different variables too. But I do think that beer is closer together than mead. So with there being so many meaderies around you, do you find that people have been hopping back and forth between them? Have you had anybody come in and say, hey, I just went to whichever one, blah, blah, blah. And
yeah. We have people like so we're on the east side of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, and like pretty much as far east as you can get almost. Yeah. And then we have people that come in from Fort Worth, and they'll Meadery hop all the way over here and then go back home.
That's cool.
And then matter of fact, like we even had people, they were traveling, so they were here with family, but we had several couples from Germany, UK, Australia.
Very cool.
And they all came in like, hey, can we take stuff to go? And so we package it all up, give them up the bottle shippers and stuff like that so they can pack them up, take them home.
That's awesome.
We're international / not international.
Yeah. Well, you can only do so much. I mean, get the I'm sure that's a whole other topic for us to go down, but getting that stuff to the international level, we can sell it that way. I'm sure is not easy where it is. You said you're getting into shops around here.
Yeah.
Has that been a difficult process for you to start selling that way?
Yes, because especially like a lot of shops, again, mead's still growing commercially. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of bottle shops and stuff like that, a lot of people know what mead is, especially on the bottle shop side, because people might go in and ask for it.
Yeah.
But the sticker shock that comes with mead is what kind of gets them. They're all like, what? Because we had a bar that wanted to put us on tap. Mm-hmm. And they're like, all right, yeah, cool. And then they're like, hey, we want a half barrel, which is 15 and a half gallons. I was like, all right, cool. And I was like, hey, this is our price for it. And he's like, oh no. He's like, we're buying ours for like $220 for a half barrel.
Yep.
And I'm all like,
of mead or of like beer?
Mead.
Where are they getting from? That's interesting. Interesting. Okay, yeah. Well, we'll talk later. No, that's interesting.
And so we gave them our price. We're like, dude, just for us to be able to make it is $240. So we're already losing $20 just trying to sell it to you.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, because I think for like a half barrel at the time we were going for like $400. I think it was.
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah, we're charging you $400, but you're about to make $2,000 off of this.
Right.
Like, well, people coming to the bar, but they don't know what it is, so I got to put on happy hour to get people to try it, blah, blah, blah. But the
so
week
1
before,
ounce pours, you just do a little, $2 taster for an ounce pour. I mean, that is like...
Yeah. But the week before, they hosted a barbecue competition that they invited us out to. Mm-hmm. And they're like, hey, we just need 2 cases of whatever mead. And so we brought 2 cases of each one of our meads, because I misunderstood what he was asking for. But we had it on hand. Yeah. And so gave him a case of our Rated Gold, which is a lemon hop, Lothbrook, which is peach, and Odin's Gift, which is our traditional. Mm-hmm. He sold almost a whole case of Odin's Gift, a whole case of Balder, which is our mango, and then sold 2 cases of our peach. And he was like, dude, I need a keg of that because that's the most that was the number 1 seller at the event. Right. He's like, I want a keg of that. I was like, all right. But push comes to shove, and you give him the price. Like, never mind. I'm like, well, but you just sold. But on top of that, he sold each one of our cans for $10 a piece and had to buy a second case because they were going so fast. Wow. But didn't want to pay. So, stuff like that is, it's a little disheartening because you're like, damn, are we overshooting it? Are we undershooting it? You don't want to sell yourself short, but you also want to try to get out. And so there's a whole balance that you have to learn along the way unless you have somebody guiding you. Mm-hmm. And that's what I would like to do, is help newcomers, guide them through the process. Like, look, people are going to turn you down because people aren't ready for me. They're ready for it, but they're not ready for the price of it.
They're used to buying beer, which is, most people sell for like $1.50 per pour, essentially, for a keg, And so they're paying like $75 for like a keg of beer. Or 5-gallon keg, and that's just not. You can't get away with that. We're putting out stuff that's $3 to make, per pour at least.
When like most beers around here are like around 4%, 4.2, 4.5, 4.6. Yeah. And our meads start at 6%. Yeah, and go up from there. And so, especially like we had somebody not really say like surprised by it. They ended up buying it because like, this is really good. It's really worth it. But like we have some of our cocktail inspired meads.
Uh-huh.
So like we have a Moscow Mule, a Mojito, that both of them are carbonated, so we put them in cans.
Yeah.
Or we put them in 16-ounce cans, tall, black, sleek cans, matte black label, make it stand out and be like, look, you're paying a premium for this.
Yeah.
And so, paying $14 for a can, people come in and are like, $14 for a can? We're like, yeah, but it's also 13%.
Yeah, you only need one. This is 3 standard drinks.
Yeah.
And
like so once you start coaching them through that, and they're like, all right, yeah, that makes sense now. And so
you
people are
don't, like,
more open to doing it.
You need a spiel for like when you're selling to those distributors like that too, where you're like you can literally price cost out and say, this for us to make a keg of this is whatever $180 for us to make a 5-gallon keg. Like, and of course you'd hope that distributors would look at that and go, well, if you're having to make it for 180, then I understand why you're selling it for blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a messy topic too, though, because you want you don't want to compromise and be like, I'm just going to give this stuff to you to get my stuff out there.
Yeah.
Or, undercut. So, but obviously, going back to what we said before, you've established your flagships at this point. How much are you playing in the sandbox still at this point?
And so you think you know what your flagships are going to be.
Yeah.
Your patrons are going to tell you
Yeah.
what your flagships are.
The stuff you wanted to make, wanted it to be.
So I was like, heck yeah, these are going to be my flagships. This is the ones we're going to crank out all the time. And so far, I've been close.
Yeah.
Like our watermelon was really good because it was one of the few first ones we made, but the watermelon fades fast. And so
you got to sell it quick.
You have to sell it quick. And then once it starts to fade, people are like, not so much. Mm-hmm. But like our peach, our mango, our barrel-aged traditional, and Asgard's Orchard will always be on tap. And Rated Gold.
Yep.
Will always be on tap no matter what.
Yeah.
So then from there, I get to play around. And
yeah.
So like I'm working on a smoked pineapple chipotle that's aging in a rum barrel.
All right.
We partnered with the local distillery. So Wiley is one of the few cities in Texas and I think in the nation that has one of every industry in a single city.
Interesting.
So we have a meadery, we have a winery, we have a distillery, we have a brewery. So like if we want to get real technical, get a cidery or cider company, then they'll have one for sure. But cider falls under the wine license, so technically, like we can make cider and call it good, but it's not my forte. If somebody wants to make a straight cider or wants to have a cider company out, let's go. And so
that's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah. But so yeah, stuff like that. So we partner with the local distillery, and we're working on an old fashioned now, and hopefully that might be one that we can make our quote unquote flagship.
You hope,
but it's one of those things. Like again, the people giving you money are going to tell you what your flagships are.
Yeah.
And for some people, that's hard because like, nope, this is going to be no. The people tell you.
Yeah, this is one I like making the most. Nope. And if it falls short, that's definitely something I've thought about, and BC and I have thought about as we start to consider opening stuff. We are theoretically establishing our flagships based off of things that have been successful of what we've tasted. However, as you just said, it could be, if that time ever comes around, we could pour those things and people be like, oh, that's fine, but I really like this thing. Yeah. And you're like, oh, well, crap,
And the thing is like some of those ones, you're like, that's so much work to do, though. But hey, that's what, if it sells, you got to put in the work.
You hope it's the opposite. You hope they're like, oh, man, I really like the one that took you 4 days to turn out.
Right? So like Odin's Gift, which is our traditional, is part of our flagship. Like it sells, it moves very well. The cans, like if you look out there on the shelf, like those cans move for whatever reason. Our Odin's Gift, our traditional 6% carbonated,
it's great.
We have a unique profile to it, like you got to experience it.
Yep.
And it's a unique profile that I've yet to find anywhere else. And so I wanted to make it to where we kind of stood out a little bit and kind of made it its own thing versus, because everybody does, it's an orange blossom traditional. Yes, they can all taste different, but they also taste similar.
Yeah.
And so ours is an orange blossom traditional, but we sweeten it with the jungle blossom, which kind of gives it layers and depths and a different flavor profile, and people keep coming back for it.
Yep.
So it's nice.
I did a jungle blossom trad with that because you had given me some of that honey, and then I bought a 5-gallon bucket of it and made a trad with it. And I poured it at some event, and people had the same reaction. They're like, this is so interesting because that honey itself is like it's pretty wild. It has so many undertones, and it's not just a straight, like, I'm sure you've had to explain to people like all the different kinds of honeys, but like most people think the honey bear honey, and then you're like, oh, I know clover honey well.
Yeah.
That one is like it's pretty radical in my opinion.
And so, like, people come in, what's mead? Well, it's a honey wine.
Yeah.
Well, I don't like wine. The easiest way to explain it to people is we are the go-between between beer and wine.
Yeah.
We have Ready to Go, which is kind of tailored towards beer drinkers, something that they can relate to because it has hops.
Right.
They love it. Then we get the red wine drinkers. So we have a Chilean Malbec mead. They love it.
Yeah.
And then, I like whiskey. All right, well, I got this barrel-aged traditional. They love it. And then, of course, we're doing our old-fashioned. So, we're trying to, then our Moscow Mule and Mojito and Pina Colada. And so we're branching out and trying to get some, like, no matter what, we're going to make a mead for you.
Yeah.
That you like.
100%.
So, and that's kind of what we're going after. We do have some of our quote-unquote exotic meads, our seasonal meads, and even then, some of those, like, people are like, oh, when's he coming back? When's he coming back? Like, should we make this a flagship? No.
Yeah.
One, it's super, so it's like my Bochet Acer Glens. So, like, it is labor intensive.
Yeah.
Especially on the scale we have to do it. And I like doing, so I know some commercial meaderies, I have a barrel band back there, the big bright orange one, wrap around the barrel, plug them in, crank it up, and it'll Bochet it for you.
Yeah.
It takes longer, but, it'll do it for you, and
Yep.
it's just turn it on and walk away.
Yep. You like to do
Anybody
it traditional way.
Anybody who's seen my videos or knows me, I'm an open flame guy. I like doing my Bochets over fire. And so I have a big, giant 50-gallon pot. We'll stick up front and just sit there with the mash paddle and stir for 4 hours, Bocheting it, just because that's how long it takes.
Yeah.
It takes almost an hour for it to get up to temperature or even close to temperature. And then
To hold it there, yeah.
yeah. So those ones, stuff like that, if we make them seasonal, then they're like, all right, they'll sell better during the season versus over the period of the year. So,
I'm sure people understand that too, though. It's like, it's like stouts. Like,
Yeah.
very few stouts are year-round, I would say, for the most part. Again, I'm sure some beer drinker right now is yelling in the comments saying, like,
I love stouts
all year round? Oh,
right.
okay. Maybe that's just
it'll be
me.
100 degrees, and I'm like, either stout or a porter, dark lager.
I don't know if you're in the anomaly or in the minority here, but at least in my opinion, I feel like especially like the big, like, I don't know, vanilla Oreo double
Barrel-aged
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, like I feel like those
The pastry stouts.
those are like you automatically associate with like the colder weather
Yeah.
months, and then just like you would for the most part, like these lighter beers for the summer months, those things. And I think that mead has to establish some of that too. You can have those things year round, but I do think it takes away some of the specialness of some of those styles, especially when they're labor intensive like that. Like anyone who's made a Bochet knows that is not. That's the hardest, one of the harder brew days in mead making. Like for us, most of the time we just throw stuff in and walk away. And that day is like, I mean, you're pretty much becoming a beer brewer, at least in the length of time that you correlate to.
Yeah,
the day.
for that one, 100%. Like, we just hired 2 guys. Sorry. No, we just hired 2 guys, and I told them, hey, after Meat Stampede, we're coming back.
Yep.
Be prepared to wear shorts and a tank top because we're going to have long brew days.
Yep.
Doing our Bochet Acer Glens and like basically our fall meads. And so luckily we've already started some of them. So like we have an apple pie sizer that's getting ready to come out, but
Nice.
that's going to be for the winter. It's a big, bold, 13% barrel aged, Umbrana barrel aged. So it adds the spice flavors without us having to add it. And so that takes time to age out. And sizers have always been one that, not that I struggled with, it's just,
They're odd. If you like, I found that
they can go sideways really fast.
especially if you don't have quality juice. I mean, obviously, I don't think you're buying full apples and chopping them up and throwing them in very often.
No, that one we use whole. We use 3 different types of apple juices.
Yeah.
And so like Honey Crisp and like a 3-blend apple juice, whatever it was. And so trying to get that profile to come through. We'll get you some here in a little bit. But it is like for the first 2-3 months after fermentation, I was just like, it was one of those, damn, I should have dumped this. No, just let it sit. Let it sit. Let it do its thing. Added some vanilla to it to kind of help push it along, see if I can round out the roughness on it. And now that I think it's like 4 months old now. I can put it out today because I've been sampling it to kind of garner some feedback from our patrons. Whatever. Like, what do you think? Because if they're coming in like, hell yeah, give me a bottle right now. Well, no, it's for the winter.
Yeah.
Or and I only do it with people that I know will give me honest feedback because I've been that guy. You walk in like, oh, what do you think? Like, oh, it's good.
Yeah.
Like, put that over there.
Yeah,
real
exactly.
Quick, but like, people come in like, can I get another little shot of that? And like, all right, yeah.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that makes you feel good.
Uh-huh.
And so, but we've been passing it out and getting feedback, and some people are like, oh, it's a little hot. And it was barrel aged, so it was a fresh dump whiskey barrel. And so there's still a little bit of whiskey in there, so it's got a little heat
kick,
on the back end. So I'm like, all right, we're going to let it age, mellow, throw some vanilla in, round out the harshness, so on and so forth. But yeah, no, it's coming along great, and it's time.
You have, I don't know if people remember the history of your equipment that you got, but you were able to get, and you can correct me because I'll get something wrong. You'd found a cidery that was closing down?
Yeah, Santa Fe Cider Company out of New Mexico. So
they were closing down. You were able to drive out and go in with the trailer and get all their stuff. So
originally, because I messaged the guy and I was like, hey, I want your equipment. And that's the other thing. If you want to try, if you're thinking about getting into commercial, and you're looking for somewhere to start. I think I touched on this before.
Yeah.
Get on the auction sites. Get on the pro brewer sites. Like, well, the website called Pro Brewer, and it's a forum discussion place. But they also sell used equipment. Hey, we're downgrading, upgrading, whatever. We're selling our old stuff off to make room for our new stuff. And so found it on Pro Brewer, and like, pricing it out before, like, all right, if I buy it new from everywhere that basically they had it from, it was 90 to 100 grand worth of equipment.
It's crazy.
And they're like, hey, we shut down. They've been shut down for 2 years.
Yep.
Hey,
they're sitting on it, trying to get rid of it.
Sitting on it, getting rid of it. Come buy it. 30 grand. I am on my way.
Yeah.
And
you're right there.
I'm talking about, it was everything. Tanks, pumps, filters. A lot. Like half of our bar was built off of stuff that they had.
That's cool.
So like, we took their old bar tables and made their old bar room tables, and so these are actually their chairs.
Oh, really?
They had cushions on top and everything.
Oh, that's fun.
And so these were their chairs. Well, now they're back here. Shelf space for us. Well, their tables were sitting like this high, and we combined several of them because other than that, I was going to throw it away.
Yeah.
But my wife's like, well, it's already made.
Yeah.
We'll just screw them all together, put wood on top, and we'll turn it into our bar, and that's our bar now.
Yeah.
And so that's what everyone's names epoxies into. And so, stuff like that. But when I went out there to get it, I was like, hey, I only want this stuff right here. And the guy's like, no.
You get everything.
You take one, you take it all. And 3 storage units.
Oh,
not the small
gosh.
ones. It was like those 15 by 20 storage units. 3 of them. He's like, you got to take it all. So we had this was in Santa Fe. We flew into Albuquerque. So we had to drive. We picked up a Penske, drove out there. And he's like, no, take it all or none of it. We had to drive back to Albuquerque, pick up a second truck, drive back, load everything up, and drive it home.
But you got a lot of stuff. I mean, like, he's got, and people might be able to see some video, but he's got a bunch of these, what do you call them?
The Latina wine tanks?
Yeah, they're the, what's the word I'm looking for? Adjustable. So
the variable capacity.
Variable capacity, that's what it is. So it has like a lid on it that can push down to whatever capacity you need, which is super cool. So you have a couple, it looks like you have 2 of those?
We have 2 1,100 or 1,000 liters. We have 2 200 liters, which is about 50 gallons. Those are all variable capacity. And then we have 4 fixed capacities, which are 1,100 liters. So it's 290
You have a bright
gallons.
tank or anything?
These 2, well, yes and no. They're Grundy tanks. They're used for carbonating.
Oh, okay.
They're called Grundy tanks.
Yeah.
But essentially they're bright tanks. But yeah. But we're not quite at the volume because one, you got to put the product in there, and then the amount of CO2 you need to go through to carbonate that.
You've got a ton of space on top. You're just wasting
so
CO2 then.
Before the year's over, we'll be at the capacity to fill them.
Nice.
Which is nice. So, and it's like we're very close. We're halfway to a little over halfway to filling them. So we're like, all right, should we do it? Just fill it and run with it and kind of start testing it out, getting the feel for it before we go full tank on it. So, I don't know. We're getting there.
Yeah, that's awesome though.
So
you've got all of these tanks. You've also got these barrel projects that people can't see on video, but you've got a bunch of barrels here that looks like you've been sourcing from a couple of different places. So that's pretty fun. You said you have a Amberana barrel too?
Yeah, we have 4 of them.
Wow, that's super cool.
So the ones on the racks are the Amberana barrel. The upright one right there with the dolly is the Herman Marshall whiskey barrel. So they dumped the barrel on a Wednesday. I picked it up Thursday. Our mead was in it Friday.
Nice.
So the barrel was, you can't, aside from picking it up and filling it the same day, you can't get any more wet barrel than that.
Which is what you want. I mean, for the most part, you don't want a barrel that's been sitting too long.
Yeah, and then we have our rum barrel back there with the pineapple chipotle.
Yeah.
So, and then we're expanding as we go along. So there's other flavors, other barrels I want to get. It's just getting to that point in space.
Yeah. So what are some challenges you found with at this point in your meadery world? Owning the meadery, I should say.
Planning.
Like planning new brews?
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's not just that, but trying to make sure you're staying on top of your flagship ones too.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
I saw this earlier. You've got a whole, and I'm sure again people watching the video can see you've got like a whole list and a to-do list and stuff. I think that's great because I'm sure it's busy whenever you're like, okay, we killed 4 whatever half barrels the other day doing this.
Yeah, and it goes like I was telling you before we started, like Asgar's Orchard, we had such a hard time. We have a hard time keeping that one in stock that we just said, hey, we're going full out on it, made 100 gallons of it, and then had to dump it. And now people are up in arms in it. So we still had like 20 gallons of our base left of it. And so we threw all the cranberries and apples in there to get it to get something because we had to dump the rest of it.
Yep.
And as soon as it was ready, filled a keg. Filled a keg, 5-gallon keg, kind of let the rest of it sit, kind of mellow a little bit more, get some more age on it. But the second it was like, hey, it's ready, get it out. We need it because people are demanding it. Not just, hey, when's it? No, people are demanding it. And got it out. And normally a 5-gallon keg, because we use barbacks. We don't have pass-through. It's just our style. One, because we're leasing the building, so the less repairs we got to do if and when we move out, the better. And so I didn't want to have to put lines from our walk-in cooler through the wall into the tap room. We just use what we had because the barbacks came with the equipment too. So we're like, just use them. Yeah. So we're using that. So we use 5-gallon Sankey kegs, and normally a 5-gallon lasts us 2 weeks. We filled a 5-gallon last night. Half of it's gone already.
That's great.
In a night.
That's awesome.
So, like I said, those ones we have a hard time keeping in, and so trying to plan to make sure you stay on top of your flagship so you don't fall out on it is probably one of the hardest things. Because one, all right, we thought we had enough when we did because we had 100 gallons up until we had to dump it. And then now you're scrambling. So the planning, trying to make sure you have everything set, ready to go, keeping up with everything, because now your other tanks are being used for other things. Right. And now you're
once you start something, you can't be like, oh, I'm going to pull this out. Like, you got to see it through.
And so now you're like, well, now we're running behind. Now people that come in, like we have some people, like they drink all our meads, but when they have one that they specifically love, like we have a couple people, as soon as they come in, like we have one guy, he loves all our meads, but he comes in, and he has his own horn with stand. Oh, we measured, like we filled it, so we knew how much volume it is. Yeah. And it's exactly
a little line on the side for him.
Almost. But it's exactly 12 ounces. Yep. So he brings his horn in, like, hey, give me 12 ounces of Balder. Fill it up. And that's pretty much all he drinks. Now, we were out of Balder, he'll drink something else. Yeah. But his favorite is Balder.
That's awesome, though. So, I mean, that seems like best case scenario that you have people who are especially willing to like continue to try stuff. But I feel like, as you said, you've started and you've been doing this for years already, but explaining what mead is every time you pour it to somebody who's new. Yeah. So I'm still stair-stepping through your stuff today, and I'll get to here in a little bit too, but I do like that you have such a variety of things too, which is fun. Like, yes, you have your flagships, whether you want to label them as that or not, but you also have a bunch of experimental stuff that I'm sure you can take someone who's never tried it from your trad to your barrel-aged whatever.
To our mixed drinks, and that's a good thing too. Is especially like someone comes in like, oh, I like mixed drinks. All right, well we have the mojito, Moscow Mule, pina coladas, and they're like, oh yeah, let me try some of those. And they're like, man, this is really good. Let's see what else you have. Because if you have some, if you make a good product, no matter what it is, and you can get somebody to at least try something, then you can definitely branch them out. Yep. But they all have to be at least decent to good.
Yeah.
To exceptional,
right?
In order for someone to be like, yeah, this is really good. Now people will come in, and it happens all the time. We get people to come in, or like, oh, that's not my preference. Oh, I prefer, dry. I prefer sweet. I prefer this. I prefer that. The flavors, and so they're not going to like everything, but
they're going to find something. Hopefully,
here, at least here at Texas Longhouse Meadery, we're going to make something that you're going to like, no matter.
Yeah.
What. Now I've only had one person, that tried everything and didn't like any of them.
But that's going to happen. I mean, I'm surprised, and there's nothing against you. I'm surprised it's not happened more.
Yeah.
You have people, like BC and I have done pouring events, and we've said, hey, you want to try some mead? And we've had people just belligerently be like, no, that's terrible. Yeah. And it's like, it's just how it is. You can't take those people and let them ruin your day, because it's just... Yeah. It is an acquired taste. I mean, it's just like beer. There are a lot of people who don't like beer at all.
Oh, 100%. No
matter what the style is. And it's like, you can't be mad about that. It's just personal preference.
Yeah. And so trying to, man, that doorbell's going
off. Hey, this is great. I'm telling you, Texas Longhouse Mead is the place to be on a Saturday.
Man, last night was open 8 months, and last night was probably the top 5 busiest days we've had.
That's great.
And it was great, but we were working.
Yeah.
So it's fun. I'm having a blast. Like I said, if you want to open a meadery, like Fox and Raven, they do production, and then they do farmers market on the weekends.
Yep.
It works great for them. They do great. They go out to markets. They have people that are regulars at their markets are like, man, we're waiting for you to come back, because they hop markets around. And so they have their following at the markets.
Yep.
We have our following here in the tap room. And it's great. It's a lot of work. Be ready to work.
Yeah.
And also be ready to take some harsh feedback.
Yeah.
And like
and not be offended by it too. I mean, I think like you've got thick skin because you've been in the game long enough to where you've received feedback from people, and like you have to develop that thick skin.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple times I got down on myself, and I reached out to you guys on the Discord, like especially the moderator team. Like there was, especially like when we were first opening up, like we opened up, we were banging, like our grand opening. I think we had almost 100, 150 people come through.
Yep.
And there's been several days we've had over 100, 150, 200 people come through, especially when we have like big events, and like we partner with, because we're on a small little property. And so we have a farmer's market back here, and they do live music, they have food trucks, and so we piggyback off of them. And so, there's days where we are just slammed. And then there's days where, matter of fact, there's like, I think it was like it was almost a week stretch where the entire week we maybe had 10 people, and you're like, oh crap, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
What am I doing? Because now you're paying employees, you're putting product out, you're paying rent. It becomes stressful at times. I'm just like, did I screw up? Like, should I really be doing this?
Well,
and
I would say you're in it now, buddy.
Oh yeah. When like I tell everybody, this is mead started out as a hobby for me that I became good at. I wouldn't say I'm the best. I wouldn't say exceptional. I became good at. And there's some things that I can definitely work on. And I think anybody who says, "Oh, I make the best mead, and I know what I'm doing. I don't need you telling me what to do." There are very few people that I can probably say can say that.
Yeah.
But other people are like, "Oh, I don't need to take advice from somebody." Go commercial. 100%. You will have to take advice from people, because those are the people paying you for your product.
Yeah.
And so that goes back to the people are going to tell you what your flagships are.
Yeah.
And so that's the biggest thing. And and there's some criticisms that I took, and I'm just like, you don't know what you're talking about. But at the same time, it's like, to them, this is what they want. Not what I want, but this is what they want. So it's not that they don't know what they're talking about. They know what they're talking about for themselves. And that's the hardest part to learn as a mead maker, because we make mead that we want to drink.
Yes. You should be, at least.
Now take that and add customers to it. Now you have to make what people want to drink, not what you want to drink. Make what you want to drink. So I'm making flavors that I want to make, but I'm adjusting my profiles to what the customer base is saying they want.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest part of listening to people and saying, okay, I need to make these adjustments because these are what the people want. Not what I want, but this is what the people want.
Yeah.
And so having to take criticism and understand that it's not just for you anymore, it's for everyone.
Well, and, you mentioned people. I think it's also important to say you're lumping multiple opinions in. Yeah. You're looking at a grander view of this than the one guy who walked in and who couldn't find a thing he liked. If you ran off with that guy's opinion, then it's real easy to go off the deep end and say oh, I'm out. This is a terrible choice, but then you take that and factor with the 50 other opinions you got, and it's balanced.
Yeah, and so you have to find a happy medium. You're not going to please everybody, but you have to find that medium that everybody is happy with.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, I could use a little bit more sweetness. Well, I greatly appreciate your feedback. I would love some more sweetness, but we're trying to find that balance that everybody's happy with.
Yeah.
And a lot more, once you start communicating people with like that, not that you're bringing people's expectations down, but people will start opening their mind like, all right, well, it's not just me. There's other people, and trying to find the balance.
Yeah.
And then they're like, all right, cool. Now I understand what you're doing. And a lot of people start coming back because they're starting to realize, all right, he actually is taking my feedback and making tweaks, and it might not be 100% what I want, but it's good.
Yeah.
So
I just this was a dumb idea in my brain, but I just had an idea for your meadery to do one called the palate expander. And it's just you pick a brew off tap and people pay for it, whatever, and you don't tell them what it is. And you guide them through, and they taste it, and then they go, oh, I think that's apple, and then I'm getting something else, and you could give them that experience, and so they could have a little bit of a mystery into it. That's a stupid idea.
I do something similar to that, and like I was saying earlier, like I'll take samples of stuff that's still in production and give it to people. I'm like, hey, what do you think?
Yep.
They're like, oh, what kind of spices did you add? None.
Yep.
That is all barrel aged.
Yep.
They're like, what? And so getting people's mind to expand and open, because by doing that, they're going to start opening up to other meads and expanding their minds to other meads. And developing more, and now they're like, hey, have you tried this meadery? Have you tried this place? Have you tried that place? And so mead is, things like that is making mead grow, but you have to be willing to adapt to that and get out of the home brewer mindset of like, this is how it's going to be. So,
yeah. And I mean, we've talked about cost. There's a home brewer mental cost that you can be willing to throw things away. Yeah. There's also that, I don't know. I feel like people go through, and I felt this myself. You have something be successful in the eyes of maybe a group of people that you've given it to, and or you've sent it off to competitions. And I think it's important to say, just because something was successful in one place doesn't mean it's always going to be. Yeah. And I think that's where people get. I hear a lot of horror stories of people jumping the ship to start a meadery based off of those ideas. They don't think about the money that goes into it, or how do I actually make 100 gallons of that mead that I've perfected or whatever. And so having that realistic idea of all the aspects. And I think that one cool thing about this series that we've done is we got to see your brain and your development of this whole idea from the inception of it, from I want to do this. Oh crap, I have to think about these 50 things that I didn't even know were a problem. I'm sure you had an inkling of all the licensures and all those things, but I remember vividly us talking about a time when you're I had to go talk to this guy, and one day, and then this guy, and this guy, then I had to go talk to another guy that wasn't even on the list because this person wanted me to. Yeah. And it's understanding that there's a lot more that goes into a meadery starting than just passion. Oh, yeah. Logistics. I love that we've seen you grow through this too. That's been super cool, and I have no doubt that people have enjoyed that too. We probably won't get to hear those people's feedback, but we've heard their feedback. But I guarantee you, people have learned a lot through getting to see you do this. Yeah. And so, tell us how we can support you. Are you, obviously there are people who can come through Wiley, Texas and try stuff. can people buy anything outside of Wiley?
Yeah, we have our vino shipper. Sorry. Yeah, we have our vino shipper. You can either go to our website, texaslonghousemead.com, or go to shopmeads.com or vino shipper. It's the same thing. Just you go to shopmeads.com, it takes you to all the meads. If you go to vino shipper, it takes you to all the wineries. Meadery is licensed as a winery, so you'll find all that. So going to Shop Meads, go find it alphabetically. Click T, it'll pull up Texas Longhouse or every meadery with the letter T or starts with the letter T.
Okay.
But yeah, even just liking the page, following the page, and even sharing. Even if you don't buy anything, just sharing our posts helps tremendously.
Yeah. SEO, that search engine optimization, whatever it is, that'll help big time.
And so, like, we have people that I've never even met, never been into the tap room, never even bought any of our meads. You know, other fellow mead makers, especially like on the Discord, we have, everybody supports each other on the Discord, which is one of the things I love. But a lot of those people on the Discords follow my page or follow our page and then share it. Never seen them, never bought anything. But
it helps.
And I'm hugely, greatly appreciative of everybody that does. One, because it's helped getting our name out. And so even though you're not buying anything, you're spreading the word and other people are doing it.
Yeah.
So that helps. So,
100%.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be putting, of course, in the bottom of this, all the links to support Carlos. I think I've done it each time. So, but I highly recommend for anybody who really wants to deep dive into this whole process Carlos has been through. If you've only listened to this episode, it's great. And I hope you've enjoyed this episode. But also go back to the beginning, because I think that's where it started. That's where you can see Carlos and all of the things he was learning. And I feel like it's fun to see the progress, but also important for anyone who really wants to get started.
Yeah.
One little interesting thing. In one of my, I'm not going to say which episode or which person it was that interviewed, but in the past, I'm going to lump it in and say 30 episodes, somebody that I interviewed, a commercial mead maker, we got off the interview, and he said, "So you want to start a meadery?" I said, "Yeah, for sure." And he was like, "I have one piece of advice for you: don't." And I was like, "Okay." And so we just kind of talked about it more. And a lot of the things you're saying of like it's a lot of work and the worries and the things like that, those were his main things. He was like, most people don't understand how much work it does take and how much it's not just a little bit of your time. It is all your time for possibly years before you really feel like you've seen a profit individually, maybe, or some sort of credit. But I think that's just grit. I mean, that's part of, obviously financially, if you're not in a place where you should be doing it, then don't do it.
Yeah,
but
100%.
If grit is the only thing keeping you back from being successful, then just do it. I mean, you just gotta, there's no developing grit. There's
no handbook, there's no nothing. You have to be willing to give it your all in order to be successful. If you can't give it your all, then yes, I'll say don't.
Yeah.
Because there's been several times where, like I said, I've questioned myself, am I doing the right thing? I love what I'm doing. I'm having a great time doing it. There are plenty of stressful days.
Yeah.
But days like this, I'm having a blast.
Yep.
So as long as you can focus on the good part and you're able to do it. So we're fully self-funded. We didn't take any loans or whatever, but other places did take loans. So I'm not saying one is better than the other, but you have to go into it knowing that, hey, this is my budget. This is what I can do.
Yep.
And you have to stick to it. I did this by myself for 8 months.
Yeah.
Brewing.
Yeah, when you said you had employees,
selling.
I was like, Carlos got employees. Heck yeah. Because I knew for a while you were solo. So.
Oh, yeah. And so, like, just in the last 3 weeks, I finally had a day off in 8 months.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm up here.
Well,
almost
Carlos
every
has
day.
like 12 kids, so.
I mean, it's 6,
Yeah.
Baker's half dozen. But it's, if you aren't willing to give it your all, don't do it.
Yeah.
It is stressful. I have more gray hairs popping up every day because of this, but I look forward to the days like this where I'm having an absolute blast. Last night, we had an absolute blast. We were jam-packed. It was about a month ago. We had over almost 200 people on property coming in and out.
Yeah.
You have to be willing. Like, it is stressful. It is hard work. But if you enjoy it and you can manage it, and you have a great support system. Like my wife, she's my rock. She's my operations manager. She's done a lot of the back end stuff, the inventory tracking, the ingredient tracking, and I just tell her, hey, I need this.
Yeah.
So having a support system there will help. But again, I was doing this on my own for a little bit. Like she helped starting the stuff out, but she was mainly just doing the taproom stuff, and now she's kind of incorporated a lot of the operational stuff while I'm doing the production stuff, the promotions, the face, so on and so forth, work in the front. But it's work.
Yeah. Well, we love to see it, and I'm super proud of you for going through this. I mean, this whole process and progress of seeing you start to now, and even just in the future, I would love, we said a 3-part series, but this could be a 7-part series. I'd love to see it. I want to see what's happening a year from now in Texas Longhouse Mead and the things you've learned, because I think people will continuously learn more things through these podcasts that we do. So hopefully we get to do another one again in house, and and kind of see what's going on a year from now, and so on and so forth. But I'll be putting every link possible to support Carlos below. I hope you'll go buy some mead on Vino Shipper or local if you can. Of course, most people are going to be probably Vino Shipper, but he's got a lot of stuff. And I don't know if you can hear in the background, he's got a full tap room that is super fun. So we're gonna close this down. But thank you, Carlos, for being willing to share and willing to guide us through what you've been through. I love that you're transparent with not only the things you do and how you make your mead, but the struggles, the successes, all those things as well. So we appreciate you.
Well, I don't want to see anybody fail, so I'd rather everybody go into it with as much knowledge as possible. So if there's anything I didn't answer or questions that weren't asked, reach out to me, and if I know the answer or have the answer or can find the answer, I'll get it for you.
Yeah. So. And I'll put some information for you to contact him. He's also in Discord, my Discord, the Dune Most Discord, many other ones if you want to talk to him there. But Carlos, sounds like we got to go sling some mead for you.
Hey, let's go.
All right. Hey, cheers.
Have a good one.